monitor in front of us is a Pro monitor. It is the Ikegami TM14-17R. It's 14 inches in size. It's a 600 line monitor. It has no sound, there's no speakers built inside of it, there's no inputs for sound. That's why you're not hearing any music or sound effects at the moment, unfortunately. That'll make the video a little bit more boring, but where I am now I don't have any speakers to plug into this system to get any sound out of it. I don't know what year the monitor was made. I've looked at the Ikegami brochure for this range of monitors, but they don't print on the sheet what year it is. And it's sort of hard to guess because the styling of these sort of monitors is comparatively older than what a Sony of the same year would be, so hard to say. I'd say it'd be, don't know, like I said, it's hard to say. Maybe we'll find a date on the inside when we have a look. So I'll take the camera off the tripod now, we'll get a closer look at the controls and things on the front and go around the back. Turn the PlayStation off, that way the camera will focus better onto the frame of the monitor and the buttons. So it's a rack mountable thing. It's pretty deep to the back there. It's got carry handles on the front, one on each side. I think it weighs about 19 kilos. There is your name, brand name there, Ikegami, and that's probably a tally lamp there. Further down you've got the gauze and the power on off switch. So that's the left side of the monitor, fully shown there and taken care of. There's nothing along the bottom, nothing along the top, and then you get onto the right side where all your controls are. So there's the model number, and there are some colour adjustments. You'll need a screwdriver to go in there and adjust those. And then there's these preset arrangements here. I'll explain those a little bit more in a moment. Then there's your input select, so you've got an A and a B, a YC and auxiliary, and a digital. So the A and B are for composite, as we will see in the back. The YC is for S-Video. The auxiliary is for RGB and component, and the digital is for digital input, SDI. Sync External, that toggles from Sync External to Sync Internal. So what that means is if you're running RGB from your console, the SCART sort, you would have that as it is now lit, indicating that it wants external sync. The sync comes in externally on its own separate wire, but if you're running component, sync will be on the green line and it'll be internal to the color signal. So you would flick that if you were running component. Mono and APT, not sure what they do. Red, green and blue, you can actually turn on just red or just green or just blue or various combinations of colours when you're running RGB. And there's some adjustments here. So these knobs here, what have we got? Hue. I'm not sure when that's going to work. It doesn't apply in RGB, but chroma will probably apply to composite in this video, but it actually works on components, just a color adjustment. These knobs pop in and out. So what happens is when that's in, that will go to the preset that you may have set. Well, it will be set to some degree here at preset. So you can go in and adjust those with a screwdriver and adjust the preset value. So you can just reliably go back to a certain preset value anytime you want, or you can flick it out and then rotate it left or right to adjust to your liking. Brightness, same deal, and contrast, same deal. Scan is underscan, and PCR is like sort of that crosshatch. It's not a crosshatch pattern, but I know they use it for testing in broadcast situations, but not really applicable here. This panel here doesn't pop out. It's not one of those control units. I think the next model in the line from Ikegami, the next range that came out, actually had a pop-out version of that panel with further controllability. There's no on-screen display at all, so you can forget that. There's the top of the monitor. There's that one side. That panel's held in by, I think, 5 screws. The top panel's held in by about 4 screws. Then there's your other panel on that side, same deal. and then there's the inputs and the power and so forth. I'll turn the monitor around so we can have a better look. There's the back a bit more clearly. There's your power in IEC connector. There's a fuse slot there. And it's not a multi-volty, it's 200 to 240 volts in, so that's fine for us here in Australia. We don't have a date, I suppose, or nothing that we can determine a date from. Made in Japan, that's good. Warning service. Now here you've got your digital input, your SDI. I think that is actually a expansion card. I don't think that comes by default with the monitor, so that has been added to it. And then we have our more useful connections here. So we have channel A, which will be composite in and an out paired there. The second composite in and out. An S-video in, a 4-pin mini DIN. I'll give that a try, see how that goes. And then you've got your red, green and blue. You can either put an RGB or component RGB into those. And there is a little toggle switch there for RGB and component. You will need to toggle that whenever you change sources. And down the bottom is a sync in and probably sync out, and then there's some type of connection for remote control and some unused slots there. Could be another S-video there, but it's not inhabited. So that's the back. I've already got the screws undone for the top. So I can take the lid off, and it is actually very spacious inside. I do like how spacious it is. Actually, I'll turn the light on. Just hang on a sec. Right, so it's extremely spacious inside. A lot of empty area. And what's the tube in this thing? Because that's going to be an interesting thing to see. Being a pro monitor, I'm made in Japan. So it's actually Hitachi M34 monitor grade, 34 centimeters inside. It is made in Japan. You can see that under the Hitachi name. So that's a good quality Hitachi tube, not like the ones you may have seen in a recent video or two, or videos to come, that use the yellow labelled Hitachi that's made in China and elsewhere. These are the good made in Japan ones. I don't actually have a lot of stuff with made in Japan Hitachi in them, so it's interesting to see. There's your controller board where all those knobs and things are. And then there's your PCB on that side that will have the power switch. And this board here is your input board. It's got all the BNCs on the back, connected to your input board. And then there's that other board, that's your digital input board. It's got a big chip on there, Sony chip of all things. And your SDI goes into that, so that's that expansion board that's an add-on. And then we've got like a power board, filtering sort of board, and then another board, probably the main board, that's got the flyback on it, as well as the input power socket and deflection circuits. And you've got the neck board on the back there. So quite a spacious setup. Now, as far as adjustments that can be made, you've got a range here of pots on the top. Let's see if we can get it into focus and try and see what any of these are. There's a width and another width, phase, horizontal center. So I've definitely got some geometry controlling pots there, and thankfully they're quite accessible too. I mean, they're right on the top. You don't have to reach in and go near any components. Very easily accessed, so that's a big plus. I like that. You only have to take the top shell off. And what I'll do is I'll just unscrew this panel here so we can see what this board's got. Alright, so the side panel's off. and you've got access to this board now, and there are quite a number of pots on it, but as to screen controlling properties, there seems to be V-hold there. There are quite a number. Probably be best to go to the service manual though to see what they do before fiddling with any of them. At least we've established that there are a number of screen controlling properties. I don't know how really comprehensive it is, but there certainly are some to make adjustments from. Right, I will turn the monitor back on and see what it's capable of doing. So I've got a PAL NES running via composite into the monitor. I highly suggest that you use the BNC terminators into any vacant spots on the back of the monitor, otherwise you'll get this issue. Maybe not so much with RGB, but with composite, as soon as I take out the terminator there, that's what happens. So make sure you use them. So we've established that PAL via composite signal works, and I've got the gun here. I have no doubts that this will actually work, but probably good for viewers out there to get reassurance that it does work, that light guns do work on these things. You're usually pretty right on broadcast pro monitors. So you can see that that appears to work. I'm not having any problems shooting the ducks. Yep, that's a go. So we'll see now NTSC composite. Just quickly go through these tests. So now we have the PlayStation 2 running via composite in NTSC, and this is where the hue control comes into play. It was very off color when I first turned it on, so I adjusted the hue. You can see that that turns it very green that way, and this turns it very purple that way. So if you go in the middle somewhere, you can kind of get the correct balance. But I'm used to usually hue being identified as tint, and that's what it usually is on normal televisions, and that adjusts some color values on NTSC signals. I don't think it applies to PAL at all. So that's another one that's that the monitor is compatible with, NTSC composite. Now we'll jump over to S-Video. So I've just pulled out the composite cable out of the PlayStation 2 and put the S-Video one in, and if I change the source to YC, yep, there we go. You can see the improvement in the quality of the picture already. It's much sharper than what it was with composite. It looks way better than composite already. We're not even at RGB, and yet it looks way better than what it was on that crappy composite. It looks heaps better. Alright, so we'll better try a PAL game while we're hooked in with S-Video. So now we're still in S-Video on the PS2, but with a PAL game. This is one of the SingStar games. So it's all in colour, it's all there proper, good and proper. So no problems there. Now we'll go up to SCART RGB. And now we've gone up to RGB. You saw Earthworm Jim before on PlayStation 1, so we know that PAL RGB works. Now we're on an NTSC game, Seagage's Wonder Boy Collection on the PS2. So we know that that works fine, and it's looking quite good there. It's a nice high-res picture. Looks great. And now we'll go up to component level on the PS2. So the PlayStation 2 is now running in component. I'm going to run Capcom Fighting Jam. It's going to get it to, definitely going to be in 480i. So I've got the option of going into progressive mode, which will bump it to 480p. So that'll be a good test for the monitor to see if it can display 480p. So let's see what happens. No, it doesn't want to do it. It doesn't work because it split the screen in half. That's what typically happens. So it's not compatible with 480p. We'll just stick with 480i and we'll go into that. Looking pretty sharp, very sharp monitor with 600 lines. And nice nice and bright there too. I think this monitor's got fairly good emission levels left in it. Pretty punchy. Might be even a little bit too bright at the moment. A bit too much contrast perhaps. Just tone it down a little bit. So that's pretty much it. You see that its compatibility is quite good with NTSC and PAL signals through composite, S-video, RGB and component. This is probably the best game or demo that I've got, just that I've shown so far, because it's quite a detailed game. It's not like some of the older ones I've put on. The monitor is quite a good monitor. Probably the one thing that struck me when I saw it was that the scan lines are very, very thin, very thin. The last monitor that I've come off that I've been used to is a Commodore 1084 monitor, which has thicker scan lines and this, much more noticeable. So if you're not a big fan of scan lines, then this could definitely be a very good option for you. Even if you are a fan of scan lines, which probably are most people, you still shouldn't have too many troubles with this, because it does look quite nice. I wouldn't necessarily say you'd go this over a Sony. Your Sony monitors are going to be flatter, and if you don't like a curved tube like this, then you probably would go the Sony. But if you do like the curved tube, then you might want to choose this one. It's a pity it didn't go up to 480p or beyond, but given the age, that's probably about the limit that you're going to get with it. But quite a good monitor. It's a cut above any sort of television of an equivalent size. It's too bad I don't have any crosshatch pattern generator on with me, but by looking at the corners, I think you wouldn't have any problem with convergence, and the sharpness is quite good in the corners too. So Ikegami is doing us quite proud here. Quite a good specimen indeed. The Hitachi tube's doing us proud as well. So that's it for this video this time. I do have some other Ikegamis that I will film at some stage and put out, but I just like to mix up brands and keep things shuffling around a bit. So again, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for next time.